Sorella never took humans seriously. On her homeworld, they were described as tiny, soft, and overly emotional creatures. Her teachers showed videos of Earth and laughed while explaining how weak humans were compared to other species in the galaxy. Her friends mimicked the way humans walked, exaggerating the small steps and waving their hands like frightened animals. Even her own mother once said, "Humans are clever, but their bodies are too small to matter." So Sorella grew up believing she already understood everything about them, but she had never met one in real life. That changed the day her starship arrived at Horizon Station, a huge space hub built by dozens of species. It floated in orbit like a shining ring of metal, filled with markets, docking bays, training halls, and restaurants where the smell of alien spices mixed with Earth-style food. Sorella stepped out of her ship with confidence, her tall frame towering above most beings in the corridor. Her silver hair fell down her back, shimmering in the lights. She walked with an easy, proud stride, enjoying how other species stepped aside when they saw her size. Humans were there too, walking among the crowd. Sorella slowed down for a moment, observing them carefully. They were short, barely reaching her chest. Their limbs looked thin. Their movements seemed light and quick. She hid a small chuckle behind her hand. Everything she had heard about them seemed correct. They looked harmless, like they needed protection from the world. She walked past a small group of humans arguing with a merchant. They spoke fast, their expressions sharp and dramatic. Their hands moved constantly as if they were fighting invisible insects. Sorella watched them with mild amusement. She felt a bit like she was watching small animals trying to look fierce. She didn't mean to insult them in her heart, it was just the way she had been taught to see them. Then the floor vibrated. A tremor swept through the station, making lights flicker and pipes groan above their heads. The next second, an alarm echoed through the corridor. The announcement came fast. A fuel line had burst in Section 4, and part of the walkway was unstable. Everyone around her panicked, running in different directions, shouting, pushing, trying to get to safe zones. Sorella didn't panic. Her species rarely did. Instead, she watched the chaos with a frown. Smaller species ran without looking where they were going. A tall creature with 4 arms pushed through a crowd, almost knocking over a human child. It looked messy and unorganized to her. That was when she heard a human voice, firm, steady, and cutting through the panic like a blade. "Don't push them. Move in a line. Keep your balance." Sorella turned, expecting to see another frightened human yelling out of fear. But what she saw made her blink in surprise. The human man standing in the middle of the chaos didn't look tiny at all. He wasn't tall, not compared to her, but he held himself like someone who knew exactly what he was doing. His shoulders were broad, his movements confident and controlled, and his eyes were sharp, studying the collapsing walkway and the trembling lights with a calculating gaze. He didn't run. He didn't freeze. He didn't show fear. He stepped forward, grabbed a stumbling alien by the arm, and pulled him out of the crowd before the creature could fall. Then he guided a group of panicked beings toward a safer path, using calm gestures instead of shouting. Sorella stared. No one had ever told her humans could look like that. Another tremor shook the station. A metal sheet fell from the ceiling with a loud clang. Several beings screamed. A child tripped. A merchant dropped all his supplies. But the human man didn't hesitate. He ran toward the falling debris and caught a collapsing support bar with both hands, using his body to keep it from smashing the walkway. His arms trembled, but he held it long enough for the trapped beings to escape underneath. Sorella's eyes widened. She had seen grown warriors from her world struggle with such weight, but this human, this supposedly fragile creature, held the beam with raw determination. Then the walkway ahead cracked open. 2 small children, 1 human, 1 a small blue alien, stood in shock right at the broken edge, unable to move. Sorella gasped as she saw a large support beam snap loose from the ceiling. Falling toward them, the human man sprinted. He moved so fast that Sorella barely tracked him. He leaped across the unstable ground, grabbed both children, and rolled with them to safety a second before the beam crashed down. Dust filled the air. Sparks flew. The man shielded the children with his own body. Sorella's heart pounded. For the first time in her life, She felt her breath catch. She had never imagined a human could do something that fearless. When the alarms finally quieted a little and engineers rushed to fix the damaged section, the man stood again, brushing dust off his jacket. There was a scrape on his arm and a bruise forming on his back where the beam had grazed him. But he didn't complain. He didn't even pause. He kept moving, checking on those around him. Sorella watched him carefully. Something new and strange stirred inside her, a mix of surprise, confusion, and admiration. It felt like her understanding of humans was breaking apart, piece by piece. The man finally leaned against a wall to catch his breath. He looked tired, but not defeated. His expression was calm, focused, and strangely gentle. Sorella felt pulled toward him. She had never walked toward a human before. She had never even spoken to one. But now her long strides carried her in his direction before she even understood why. He noticed her shadow fall over him and looked up close. His features were clear, dark eyes, strong jaw, a calm seriousness that she hadn't expected from someone so small compared to her. He didn't flinch when he saw her size. He didn't take a step back like many smaller species did. Instead, he asked, "Are you okay?" She blinked twice. She had expected him to be surprised by her height. She had expected him to stare at her shimmering skin or her long limbs. But he looked at her like she was just another person, and that caught her off guard more than the tremors. "I am fine," she said softly. You took a heavy hit." He shrugged lightly. "Better me than the kids." His simple words felt heavier than they sounded. Sorella lowered her voice. "Not everyone would risk their life like that." He gave a small, tired smile. "More people would than you think." She didn't believe that. She had watched many beings run and hide. But she didn't argue. Instead, she asked, "What is your name?" "Evan." Sorella repeated it inside her mind, surprised at how soft it sounded for someone so strong. She had expected a name that felt heavier, sharper, something loud or complex. But Evan, it felt small, yet somehow fitting. "I am Sorella," she said. Evan nodded politely. No fear, no discomfort, just quiet acceptance. Sorella didn't know why, but that simple reaction made something warm spread through her chest. A station official approached them, saying that everyone needed to stay in the waiting area until the damaged corridor could be sealed completely. Sorella followed Evan into the large hall filled with benches, though she could have gone anywhere she wished. She didn't want distance. She wanted to study him. He sat down, resting his arms on his knees. His breathing slowed. He didn't look heroic now, just calm, real, and human. A human unlike any she had imagined. Sorella found a place to sit near him, still feeling that strange warmth in her chest. She studied small things. The way his fingers flexed after the impact. The way he checked the bruised spot on his arm silently. The way he watched the children to make sure they were no longer scared. He looked tired, but steady. Small, but unbreakable. Her beliefs about humans were falling apart faster than the damaged walkway behind them. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to form the words. Her voice finally came out in a quiet tone. "You are different." Evan looked at her. "Different from what?" She swallowed. "From what I was taught." He raised an eyebrow slightly, waiting. She felt her cheeks warm, embarrassed to admit her thoughts. "I was told humans were weak," she said honestly. "I was told you panic easily, that you break easily, that you cannot handle danger." Evan didn't look offended. He simply gave a slow nod. "Some do, some don't. We're like every species." Sorella felt a small, unusual twist inside her chest. His answer was calm, humble, and completely free of ego. It made her want to understand him more. The station lights eventually stabilized. Engineers continued their work. People talked softly in the waiting area. But Sorella barely noticed any of it. Her attention remained on Evan, the human who had shattered everything she once believed. She had come to the station thinking humans were tiny and unimportant. Now she knew she had been wrong. Very wrong. As she watched Evan sit there, steady and thoughtful. She felt a sudden certainty forming inside her. This human was not small at all, and she had a strange feeling that her story with him was only just beginning. The waiting hall of Horizon Station slowly filled with the low hum of voices. People talked softly after the chaos had settled. Some beings checked their injuries. Others tried to call their families. Security officers walked around, reassuring the crowd that engineers were sealing the damaged corridor. But Sorella barely noticed the noise or the movement. Her focus remained on Evan. She kept glancing at him from the corner of her eye. Every time someone spoke to him, he answered calmly. Every time a child walked by, he smiled gently at them, even though his back still hurt from the fallen beam. He looked small compared to her, yes. But there was something about him that made her chest tighten, something she couldn't describe with any word she knew. She realized she had never sat so close to a human before. Their scent was different, lighter, warm, with a hint of metal and fabric. Their eyes were expressive, showing emotions clearly. Their movements were precise, like they were always ready for something. Sorella studied every detail of him without meaning to. For the first time, she felt awkward about her size. She wondered if she looked frightening from his perspective. She wondered if he felt uncomfortable sitting near someone who could pick him up with one arm. She shifted slightly, trying not to take too much space. She didn't expect him to notice. "You can relax, you know," Evan said suddenly, his voice gentle. Sorella froze. "Relax? You're sitting like you're scared to touch the bench." Her cheeks warmed slightly. I don't want to disturb you." "You're not," Evan said, leaning back a little. "You helped keep the crowd calm earlier. You didn't panic." "That was good." Sorella blinked. "You noticed that?" "Of course," he said, smiling lightly. "Most people ran. You didn't." She didn't know why, but those simple words made something flutter inside her chest. She had expected humans to feel intimidated by her. But Evan didn't speak like someone who felt inferior. He spoke like someone who saw her as an equal. Before she could say anything else, a sudden sound echoed through the hall. A tall, muscular alien, one of the species with thick armor-like skin, walked in with heavy steps. He looked angry, his 4 eyes glowing softly. He had been in the damaged corridor earlier, and his pack of supplies had been crushed during the collapse. He scanned the room and focused on Evan instantly. "You!" the alien growled, stomping toward him. Sorella tensed. Evan looked up without fear. "You told me to move away," the alien shouted. Sorella rose from her seat, her large frame towering over both of them. But Evan lifted a hand calmly, silently telling her he didn't need help. Evan stood up. "I told you to move because the walkway was breaking. If you had stayed, you would have fallen with it." The alien slammed a heavy fist on the table beside him, cracking the surface. "You made me panic." "You panicked yourself," Evan replied, his voice steady. "I was trying to keep you alive." Sorella watched closely. The alien was twice Evan's width, with thick arms strong enough to bend metal bars. Yet Evan did not step back. He did not raise his voice. He stood there like a stone, small but unmoving. The alien stepped closer, his breath loud and heavy. "You owe me supplies." "I owe you nothing," Evan said. "Engineers will review the security footage. They'll give you compensation if they think it's fair." Sorella felt the air tighten. She was ready to step in, ready to push the alien away if needed. But Evan's calm expression stopped her. His voice wasn't angry, it wasn't scared. It simply carried weight. The alien stared at him, confused by his lack of fear. Finally, he huffed and walked away. Still grumbling but no longer threatening, Sorella sat back down slowly. Evan exhaled softly. Some people blame others when they're scared. He'll calm down. She turned to him. "You didn't flinch." "I've dealt with worse," he replied. Sorella's curiosity burned brighter. She wanted to know what kind of life made a human speak like that. She wanted to know why he could stand against danger without trembling. She wanted to know why he acted differently from everything she had learned. A soft beep came from the station speakers. A voice announced that sections of the corridor were being repaired. But passengers needed to wait longer before leaving the hall. Some people groaned. Others settled in for more waiting. Evan stretched his arm, wincing a little. Sorella's eyes widened. "You are injured," she said. "It's just a bruise." "Let me see." He blinked, surprised by her sudden seriousness. "It's fine, really. I insist," Sorella said. On her world, refusing medical help was considered foolish. She leaned closer. Evan hesitated but eventually rolled up his sleeve slightly. A dark bruise covered his upper arm. Sorella frowned deeply. "This is not small," she said. "It will heal." She examined it carefully, her fingers hovering but not touching. She didn't want to hurt him. His skin looked softer than hers, more delicate. She wondered how someone with such fragile skin could carry so much strength inside. Sorella spoke softly. "My people would avoid such danger unless necessary. You ran into it without thinking twice." Evan looked at her with calm eyes. "I didn't have time to think. 2 kids were in the path." She lowered her gaze. "Your bravery surprises me," Evan shrugged lightly. "Courage isn't about size." Sorella felt something shift inside her mind, another belief cracking open. The station officers began passing out warm drinks and small energy snacks. When one officer offered some to Sorella, the cup looked tiny in her enormous hand. Evan chuckled quietly when he saw her trying to hold it carefully. Sorella glanced at him, confused. "Why are you laughing?" "Sorry," he said. "It just looks small. Like a toy cup." She looked at the cup, then at him, then let out a very soft laugh of her own. It surprised her. She rarely laughed around strangers. Humans were starting to confuse her more than she liked to admit. Evan leaned back. "So, Sorella, what brings you to Horizon Station?" She hesitated. "I came with my research group. We study alien cultures." He nodded. "So humans aren't your specialty?" "No," she admitted. "I only learned about humans through stories. Good stories, or bad ones?" "Wrong ones," she said honestly. "Very wrong," Evan smiled gently. "Well, that happens. Many species misunderstand each other." Sorella looked at him closely. "I didn't misunderstand your bravery." Evan's smile faded slightly, replaced by something softer, something thoughtful. Before he could reply, a loud clatter echoed from the far corner of the hall. A group of small alien children had been playing with a drone, and the machine suddenly malfunctioned, whirling out of control. It zipped dangerously through the room, causing people to duck. The children panicked and ran. Sorella stood up immediately, ready to act. But Evan was faster. He jumped over a bench, sprinted toward the spinning drone, and grabbed it with both hands, forcing it still. Sparks flew, but he held on until the machine powered down. People applauded lightly when the danger was over. Evan simply dusted off his hands and brought the drone back to the children. "Be careful," he said gently. "Machines get tired too." The children nodded shyly. Sorella watched him again. Every time she thought she understood him, he did something else that made her heart tighten a little more. He returned to sit beside her, breathing slightly faster from the quick movement. "Sorry about that. Those things are unpredictable." "You are unpredictable," she said. Evan laughed softly. "In a good way or a bad way?" "I haven't decided." He raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Sorella looked away, embarrassed. "I mean, you confuse me." "How?" She didn't answer at first. Then her voice came out quiet. "I thought humans were small and weak. But when I look at you, I do not see someone small. I do not see someone weak." Evan's expression softened. "Strength isn't only in muscles, you know." She nodded. She had started to understand that without him even explaining. Their conversation paused when a station officer approached again. "Everyone, please prepare for the next safety check. You will be divided into groups based on travel routes." Sorella stood, but her heart sank slightly. If they were divided, she might not see Evan again. Evan stretched his back and winced. "Guess they're sending us to different gates." Sorella didn't know why the thought troubled her so much. She had only met him a short time ago. Yet her chest felt heavy, imagining him walking away. She stepped a little closer. "Will I see you again?" Evan looked at her, surprised by the quiet tone in her voice. She didn't like the uncertainty. Before she could say more, the station officer called for travelers heading toward the eastern sector. That was Cyrella's group. She hesitated. Evan noticed. "Go on. You'll be fine." She looked into his eyes, steady, gentle, unafraid, and something inside her whispered that she didn't want this moment to end. But the officer called again, and Cyrella knew she had to go. She walked a few steps away, then stopped and turned back to him. "Evan." He looked up. "Yeah? I will look for you," she said softly. A small smile curved his lips. "Then, I'll make sure you can find me." Cyrella felt warmth spread through her chest. She walked toward her assigned group, but her mind stayed behind with him. She had come to Horizon Station believing humans were tiny, but now she understood a truth that shook her world deeper than any tremor. One human, just one, had changed her view of an entire species, and she felt certain their story was not over yet. Cyrella joined the group heading toward the eastern sector, but her eyes kept drifting back toward the place where Evan sat. Even when the hallway curved and he disappeared from sight, her mind refused to let go of him. Her steps felt heavier than they should. She told herself it was simply curiosity, a desire to understand humans better. But deep inside, she knew it was more than that. When she reached the screening checkpoint, a guard scanned her wristband and motioned her forward. Cyrella tried to focus on her surroundings, the flashing lights, the bustling travelers, the hum of the giant engines vibrating through the walls, but everything felt distant compared to the vivid memory of Evan's calm eyes and steady voice. Her research team waited for her on the other side of the checkpoint. They were tall like her, members of her species with shimmering skin and long limbs. They greeted her with relief. "There you are," said Relin, the group leader. "We heard the station had an accident." "I am fine," Cyrella replied. "Good," another researcher said. "We need to return to the ship soon. This place is more chaotic than we expected." Cyrella nodded politely, but her attention drifted back toward the checkpoint. She wondered where Evan had gone. She wondered if he was still sitting in the waiting hall. She wondered if he even thought about her after she left. Her team discussed their next tasks, but Cyrella barely listened. Her mind wandered through the events of the past hour. She remembered Evan lifting the heavy beam. She remembered him arguing calmly with the angry alien. She remembered him catching the malfunctioning drone for the frightened children. She remembered how her heart had reacted each time. Her chest tightened suddenly. She realized she didn't want to leave the station without seeing him again. "I need to go back," she said suddenly. Relin frowned. "Back? For what reason?" Cyrella searched for an answer that would not sound strange. "I dropped something earlier. Then send a request to the Lost and Found system." Cyrella shook her head. "It is important. I need to get it myself." Relin sighed. "Fine, but return quickly." Cyrella turned and walked briskly back toward the corridor. Her long legs carried her faster than she expected. She almost reached the checkpoint when a guard stepped in front of her. "Only outgoing passengers allowed," the guard said firmly. "I was in the waiting hall earlier," Cyrella explained. "I need to return for something. Your group has already passed inspection. You must remain with them." Cyrella clenched her jaw. She didn't like being stopped, but she knew pushing her way through would cause unnecessary trouble. She stepped aside and took a deep breath. Then she spotted a maintenance access route open on the side. Workers were moving equipment through it. She approached and asked a technician politely, "May I pass? I need to reach the hall behind this section." The technician looked up at her towering form and nodded quickly. "Sure. Just don't touch the tools." Cyrella ducked under the low doorway and slipped into the passage. It was narrow compared to her size, and she had to move slowly to avoid hitting hanging pipes. She made her way through the twisting path, following the memory of the hall's location. After several turns, she found a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." She gently pushed it open. The door led directly back into the large waiting hall. People were still seated, chatting quietly. Station staff handed out more drinks, and there, sitting on the same bench, with his jacket on his lap and his expression thoughtful, was Evan. Sorella felt a wave of relief stronger than she expected. She stepped out quietly, her large frame casting a faint shadow on the floor. Evan noticed her immediately. His eyes widened slightly in surprise. "You came back," he said. Sorella nodded and walked toward him. "I did not want to leave without seeing you again." Evan blinked. "Why? Did something happen?" "No," she said softly. "But I was not ready to walk away." Evan let out a quiet breath, as if he didn't know what to say to that. He shifted to make more space for her on the bench, even though she barely fit. Sorella sat down carefully, her knees bending at an awkward angle, but she didn't care. Sitting beside him felt right. For a few moments, they said nothing. The noise of the hall faded into the background. The station lights glowed softly above them. Then Evan finally spoke. "Your group must be waiting. They can wait longer." He chuckled. "You're not usually this stubborn, are you?" "I am only stubborn when it matters," she replied. A small smile touched his lips. "So, I matter?" Sorella looked away, her cheeks warming again. "Yes." The single word hung between them, simple but powerful. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. "That's unexpected." "I know," she admitted. "It is unexpected for me as well." He studied her face for a moment. "You look different now. Quieter. Like something is on your mind." "There is," she said, turning toward him. "You changed the way I see humans." He raised an eyebrow. "How did you see us before?" "As tiny," she said honestly. "As weak, as unimportant. And now?" She looked at him with eyes that held none of her earlier assumptions. "Now I see courage, strength, heart." Evan didn't speak. He looked touched, almost shy, though he tried to hide it. Sorella leaned forward slightly. "When the walkway collapsed, you did not run. When the angry alien confronted you, you did not flinch. When the drone malfunctioned, you moved faster than anyone else. You did not act like someone fragile." Evan shrugged lightly. "I just did what needed to be done." "Many beings would not," she said softly. "But you did." Evan looked at her for a long time, and she felt something warm grow inside her chest. This human, this small creature she once thought she could overlook, now held her attention completely. A voice suddenly echoed through the hall. "Passengers for Deck 12, please prepare for transport." Evan sighed. "That's my sector." Sorella's heart sank. "You are leaving." "I have to return to my transport ship," he said. "My work shift starts soon." She looked at him with quiet desperation. "Will I see you again?" Evan hesitated. "I don't know. The galaxy is big." Sorella leaned forward slightly. "I will make it smaller." He blinked. "How?" "I will look for you," she said simply. "I will find your ship. I will find your route. I will not let this meeting end here." Evan's lips curved into a slow, warm smile. "That sounds like a promise." "It is," she said. He stood up slowly. Sorella rose with him, towering over him but feeling strangely small inside. People around them moved toward the transport gates. Evan picked up his jacket, slinging it over his shoulder. "You should return to your group," he said softly. "I will, after you go." Evan nodded, then stepped back. For a moment, he looked up at her with a mixture of admiration and uncertainty. "Take care, Sorella." "You as well, Evan." He turned to leave. Sorella watched each step he took, her heart pounding with a feeling she had never experienced before. When he reached the checkpoint gate, he paused and looked back at her one last time. She lifted her hand slowly, giving him a small wave. He returned it, and then he disappeared into the transport corridor. Sorella stood still for a long moment, staring at the empty doorway. The world felt quieter without him in it. She took a slow breath and turned around. It was time to return to her team. When she reached her group again, Relin looked frustrated. "Where did you go?" "We were preparing to leave." Sorella didn't answer immediately. She walked past them and looked out the large station window, where dozens of ships floated like metal stars. "Something important happened today," she finally said. Relin raised an eyebrow. What? I met a human, she said softly. Her team members exchanged confused looks. Sorella didn't care. She had a new mission now, one she had never expected. She would find Evan again. Not because he had saved lives. Not because he had changed her view of humans. But because he had changed something inside her. And she knew, deep in her heart, that he was not someone she could forget. Not now.